Question number 2, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
My question is to the Minister of Finance. How is the government's programme of economic reform supporting the resilience of the New Zealand economy?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, well, it's certainly not to declare a crisis and panic when dairy prices fall. The government's approach is to support resilience of the economy through responsible fiscal management, a floating exchange rate, sustained investment in infrastructure and education, and supporting diversification and investment in R&D through the business growth agenda. As a result of this program, we're seeing higher household savings, more moderate borrowing growth, a smaller current account deficit, and improvement in New Zealand's net liabilities offshore, all of which improve the resilience of this economy to external shocks.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How does our economic resilience compare internationally?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, it compares pretty well, provided we stick to the policy that delivers the following 4 factors: a broadly balanced government budget, net debt less than 40% of GDP, economic growth greater than 1.5%, and interest rates high enough to reduce them. New Zealand meets all of these criteria, and only 4 other OECD countries do. So by this measure, we have a pretty resilient economy compared to most developed countries.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What recent reports has he received showing growth in the New Zealand economy despite recent falls in dairy prices?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, reports showing continued expansion of manufacturing and services, which together make up 3/4 of the New Zealand economy. The performance of manufacturing index showed the sector expanded in August, the 35th straight month of expansion since the Labor Party called the manufacturing crisis. The performance of services index showed that services, which make up 2/3 of the economy, are growing at their fastest rate in over a year. So these are positive indications that outside of the dairy sector, the economy is growing moderately.
Supplementary, Mr.
Order.
Speaker.
Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention to Speaker's ruling 197/5, which you've also referred to in the past, about ministers not bringing a political party into a question where they have not been involved, or into an answer where they've not been involved in the questioning. You've indicated at the beginning of question time today that you intend to set a higher bar for questions and for answers. And so I want to get some reassurance from you that you're also going to be enforcing that Speaker's ruling, because repeatedly throughout his answers today, the Minister of Finance has been referring to policies of the Labor Party, and we could argue misleadingly, and if that's going to be the nature of the debate, then I think your higher standards are going to be difficult to enforce.
I certainly hadn't picked up any drawing in. I may have missed it, but I hadn't realised that the Minister was continually bringing in an opposition party through those answers. I thought the answers were reasonable, but I'll certainly keep a more vigilant watch in the future. Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What options does the government have to support the economy should economic growth end up being lower than expected?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government continuously updates its plans depending on changing circumstances. In the past, we've increased spending and supported New Zealand families through the global financial crisis and the Christchurch earthquake, and then tightened our belts when times were better to get back into a position where we could deal with further shocks to the economy. But at the moment, growth is around 2 to 2.5%, and we don't believe the kind of measures we pursued after the global financial crisis are currently warranted. But of course, if significant global risks eventuate, then we may have to consider them.
Question number 3, Fletcher Tabuto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to